You fools. You bunch of idiots. Do you know who he is?
He looked around at Robert and the others, his expression livid. Fraser jumped in to interrupt. He didn't want too many people to know his identity just yet.
Mr. Wilson, I presume.
I hope that you are available to meet me tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning at the sales department of the Philly Group to personally buy from me 100 properties.
Robert stared in shock. Had Fraser really asked his boss to purchase so many properties? He found himself even more startled a few moments later when Mr. Wilson spoke.
No problem, Mr. McMore. I'll be there on time.
The onlookers gasped and murmured to one another. Fraser turned his gaze on the stunned manager. Members of the wealthy class never seemed to be able to escape from their obligations. Fraser had chosen to leave his family because he didn't want to live a life of deception. But now, he had to face it bravely because his wife was being bullied. After letting out a long puff of smoke, he put out the cigarette and tossed it into the garbage. He then got into his car and drove to a corporate headquarters building across town. It was one of the largest companies in San Clemente, and he had been here many times during the past 3 months because he had been in charge of distributing and putting up flyers. The two women who worked at the front desk always gave him a hard time. Fraser walked into the lobby on the first floor and was immediately noticed by the two women.
Fraser, it's you again.
You really have some nerve coming here again and again.
Well, don't come in. You're not allowed here anymore. Look at the notice.
Take a good look.
You've been put on our blacklist, and I designed this announcement myself. How about that?
Fraser craned his head and saw that under his photo there was a short blurb. He read it silently. Fraser, a useless salesperson at the Philly Group, has repeatedly snuck into our office area to distribute unwanted flyers. This worthless person, whose wife has repeatedly cheated on him, is not welcome in the building. Recently, the women's restroom has been subjected to a peeping Tom, and we suspect that Fraser is the culprit. As such, he has been put on the company's blacklist. If anyone sees him on the premises, contact security or a staff member immediately. After reading the description, Fraser frowned and thought, if they don't want me to put up flyers, that's fine, but why drag my name through the mud? Fraser took a deep breath and resisted the urge to lower himself to the level of the two women at the desk. He ignored the notice and said coolly,
Tell Mr. Wilson I'd like to see him.
Now, who is here to see Mr. Wilson?
asked a voice from behind them. At that moment, a balding middle-aged man walked out. When he saw Fraser, he heaved a sigh and said,
Ah! So it's you! What are you doing here? Still trying to sell properties? Maybe you're trying to sell your own property. Here's a bit on the smaller side. Do you think my boss would like that? You are a fool.
Mr. Cole, I agree. Do you want me to call the security?
One of the women at the desk piped up. She reached for the desk phone and started pressing the buttons. Fraser said calmly,
Well, you're right about one thing. I am here to sell your boss my home. In fact, I don't want to sell him one property. I'm going to sell him 100.
With that, Fraser took out his cell phone and directly called Henry Wilson, the corporation's president. His tone was full of arrogance as he ordered Henry to meet him in the lobby on the first floor within 3 minutes.
You want to sell the boss 100 properties. I'll tell you what, if you're successful in selling your properties to Mr. Wilson, I will kneel down and I will lick your shoes in front of everybody here.
Robert was overjoyed at the foolishness of the young man. As soon as he said that, security guards rushed in. Robert was in no mood to waste any more words on Fraser. He impatiently waved his hand.
Not you again.
One of the guards cried as he recognized Fraser.
You may have gotten away from us last time, but you won't escape so easily this time.
Both guards advanced on Fraser as they pulled out their nightsticks to give him a beating. He stood and watched them step closer, a somber expression on his face.
All of you, stop.
Shouted a stern voice from nearby. The security guards froze, as did everyone else.
Mr. Wilson, what are you doing here? Can I help you with anything?
All eyes turned to the front desk, where Henry Wilson was standing, watching the unprofessional scene unfolding before him with disdain.
Why are you still standing there? Fraser, get lost.
Henry's eyes widened in shock when he heard Fraser's name, and he stared at the young man before him. It's him? He thought in wonder. It's really him? Henry snapped.
Get lost. You are the ones who should get lost. You fools. You bunch of idiots. Do you know who he is?
He looked around at Robert and the others, his expression livid. Fraser jumped in to interrupt. He didn't want too many people to know his identity just yet.
Mr. Wilson, I presume. I hope that you are available to meet me tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning at the sales department of the Philly Group to personally buy from me 100 properties.
Robert stared in shock. Had Fraser really asked his boss to purchase so many properties? He found himself even more startled a few moments later when Mr. Wilson spoke.
No problem, Mr. McMore. I'll be there on time.
The onlookers gasped and murmured to one another. Fraser turned his gaze on the stunned manager.
Well, now, Mr. Cole, I am an honorable man, but I don't think it's necessary for you to kneel down and lick my shoe. After all, your mouth is too dirty and smelly.
He glanced and saw that it was almost 6. He mumbled something incoherent about cooking dinner and hurried out. Henry watched in concentration as the young man left. Was he actually saying something about having to cook dinner? Why would someone of his power need to go home and cook something? He started to call out the young man questioningly, but saw that he had already sped away.
Mr. Wilson, are you sure about this? This man Fraser, he's not trustworthy. This might be a mistake.
Henry turned his cold glare on Robert.
I think you were the one who was making the mistake. Head to accounts and pick up your last paycheck. You won't be here tomorrow. That's all.
After saying that, Henry left without looking back. Robert watched the president of the company walk away from him. He just fired me, Robert thought in a sullen state. His face paled as he looked around at the 2 women at the desk. They stared back at him. One of them quickly tore down the blacklist. The remaining fear in their hearts had yet to disappear. Both women were thinking the same thing. Who exactly is that guy? Fraser. The moment Fraser entered the house, Natalia's family was on his case.
Can you see what time it is? Are you deliberately making your family starve?
Asked James, Natalia's older brother and Fraser's brother-in-law. Dorothy, Natalia's mother, who was busy in the kitchen, stuck her head out and said,
You're worthless. You think you're too good to cook for us now? Are you too good for this family?
Mom, I went out for work.
What?
Natalia cried, walking in through the door right behind him. It seemed like she had been crying.
You alright?
He asked.
What?
She snapped. Before he could say anything, she stormed off to the bedroom and slammed the door. Fraser quickly finished preparing the meal before going and checking on her. He knocked and then pushed the door open. However, he found that Natalia had her head down as she was going through her stocking drawer, recalling Moss's words from earlier that day.
So be sure to bring your stock.
Fraser was instantly angered.
Natalia!
He shouted.
What are you trying to do? Are you really gonna humiliate me by accepting Moss's offer? Look, if you want to treat me like a good-for-nothing loser, fine, but don't do it at your own expense and reputation. Are you really gonna betray our relationship?
Natalia was shocked. She gaped at Fraser with her almond-shaped eyes. That was the first time in her memory that Fraser had been angry enough to shout at her. Instantly, a strong feeling of resentment rose in her heart.
Fraser, are you a man or not? You dare to be mean to me now? Have you even stopped to think about why I might be doing this? Are you really so foolish? Do you really think I would need to compromise myself like this if you even had the slightest bit of skill at your job? Was there a need to degrade me like this?
Fraser was silent and lowered his head in shame. Fraser's heart softened and his anger dissipated. He tried to reach out and give her a hug to comfort her, but she pushed him away.
Don't touch me! I'm really sick of you! After enduring for so many years, I'm tired of trying. If it doesn't work out, we do as my parents say. We need to get divorced.
No, I won't.
Fraser shook his head stubbornly in refusal. Natalia rolled her eyes in anger. For the past 3 years, Fraser never said no to her except when the topic of divorce came up. In these cases, he would become adamant in his protests.
Natalia.
Fraser began, his tone softer.
I know I've asked you to trust me before. Can you trust me again this time?
Trust you again?
Natalia grimaced. However, when she turned toward him and saw Fraser's serious expression, one that she had never seen before, she swallowed the words that were about to come out of her mouth. She didn't know if it was an illusion or not, but his demeanor gave her a sense of reliability and control.
Natalia, do you still remember the promise that I made to you? The promise that no matter what happens, I won't let you get hurt. Please trust me again. I have a surprise planned for tomorrow.
Whatever you have planned, don't try it. There's no way you'll be able to sell 100 properties. It's impossible. Don't make empty promises. Look, I'm not cheap or foolish. Even if I do meet with Moss tomorrow, I won't let things go too far.
With that, Natalia left the room to eat dinner with the family. She's being naive, he thought. If she has dinner with Moss tomorrow, it will be like sending a lamb into a lion's den. I'm sure Moss has 100 ways to try to get her with him. After everyone gathered around the table to eat dinner, Fraser had just grabbed his fork to take a bite of food when Dorothy started to criticize him again. This time, however, she was back to urging him to divorce Natalia as soon as possible.
Fraser, the deadline we set for you is almost up. You haven't even started earning what we asked you to. You're barely bringing in $1,000 a month. That's not enough to support one of you, let alone two.
What? You're bringing home $1,000 a month? That's not even enough for me to buy enough cigarettes to smoke in a month.
Natalia's jobless brother spoke with a look of disdain on his face. He seemed to be forgetting the fact that he himself wasn't working, and he was sitting around all day without any source of income. Natalia asked quietly,
Mom, James, why can't you two just drop it? Let's just have a peaceful meal.
You want a peaceful meal? All right then. It's time for you to move out with your foolish husband.
Haustus was Natalia's father. He had been born into a wealthy family that was successful in business, the Lapels family. However, because of his poor ability, he had been kicked out of the family's main business 10 years ago and was given the job of managing an ailing company in San Clemente, also owned by the Lapels family.
What? Dad, are you joking? You want us to move out? Why?
Your brother. He had a hard time to sort out this marriage. And his fiancée has said that she doesn't like the number of people living here.
Dad, you...
Let me finish. I had a serious thought about that. Your sister in college, she has been living there for a long time. You're doing quite well. So why can't you rent an apartment for the two of you?
Natalia was enraged. She slammed her hand on the table and asked,
Why should we? This place is 2,000 square feet, so why can't it accommodate the two of us? That woman is asking for too much before she's even married. She's way too overbearing.
James immediately tried to protect his fiancée.
Natalia, be careful, okay? She's your future sister-in-law, okay? So change your attitude. Just because you're married to a loser, you think that the entire family will support you?
Enough.
Finally, Haustus intervened.
Your mom and I only have one son. And we're leaving this house to him.
Natalia, you're earning quite a bit now. It's more than enough to support yourself.
Dorothy chimed in.
You're being ungrateful. I might have earned a lot, but I've paid more than my fair share into this family.
Seeing that his wife's anger was building to a dangerous level.
Oh, you don't argue with them. It's fine if we have to find our own place.
James looked appreciatively at Fraser. Previously, he was worried that Fraser was only after a stake in his inheritance.
You're pathetic. You're the one who said that I shouldn't allow myself to be bullied. You're just too weak.
She angrily left the table. Fraser followed her, and soon Natalia's indignant voice could be heard again as she continued to berate her husband. James didn't take it to heart, but when he saw that his parents seemed pretty disappointed, he said,
Dad, Mom, just don't worry about it. Let's just eat. Although Fraser is a waste of space, at least his cooking is not so bad.
Later that night, Fraser got up from bed, walked over to Natalia's bedside. He felt sorry for her when he saw that she was still frowning, even though she was asleep. There were traces of tears on her face.
Natalia, moving out of here will be fine. Don't worry.
To listen to the full audio series, install the Pocket FM app now.